week, we have got a brand new, shiny, still in the cling film, still in the wrap, Prime Minister. It's Andy Burnham's turn this week. I'm sure it might be somebody else's turn, like your turn next week. Who knows? We seem to be going through them at a rate of naught. And it turns out he's walked out in the door and in true Northern style, taken a look at the bills and gone, how much? And moved everything up to Manchester. So off the back of that, I'm expecting whippet racing to become the national sport and flat caps to count as formal wear at all government dues. It's a wee natter where I would normally be joined by Jenny as well. I'd normally join you as well as that. I'm trying not to get too confused here, but unfortunately, she's a little bit too busy pitching the concept of number 10 East Midlands to our shiny new Prime Minister to convince him to open an office down our way as well. I'm not sure how well it's going, but it does mean she can't join us this week. She should be back next week. And staying on that topic of our shiny new Prime Minister, this week it's Andy Burnham's turn. Who knows who's going to be next week? Just seen a message from WAP saying his eyelashes, which yet they seem to be a hugely focused on thing in the media. It's all about the eyelashes, and some people even comparing them to Betty Boop. And that's some serious eyelashes. Now, don't get me wrong. I understand that politicians do sometimes wear makeup, and it's all to do with television and the big shiny bright lights, and you don't want people looking like they're sweating all the time. I'm not going to go into reasons why you don't want it to happen, but to stop that shininess, you do apply a bit of makeup, and that's what happens. That's television. That's one of those things. I've never had to do it myself. I just know it's a thing because I found it a bit odd. Like, hang on a minute, why? We're just here to record a video. What are you doing? And it had it all explained to me. It's the amazing world of media. It's like when you find out how they make those photos that you see in adverts and, when you're at restaurants and things like that, and the food looks totally amazing and nothing like what you actually get out the other end. When you find out all the tricks you do there, it makes you wonder sometimes. But anyway, on a slightly different note, we do like you getting in touch throughout the week. We like things to be a little bit old-fashioned, where you post your responses to our questions in, and they come in on little bits of card, or sometimes they come in on the phone and things like that as well. And last week we were asking, what is the most expensive mistake you've ever made? I'll be honest, I've made more than a few. But Anita was in touch saying, in 2019, I didn't check the flight time properly and ended up missing a flight to Brussels to watch a Hanson concert the next day. So I needed a new flight, which is full except one seat in business class. So unfortunately, I ended up paying for it. Business class is one of those things where I want to try at some point. But I'm also a bit tight as well. I know, shocking, Scottish guy that's a bit tight, but I'd also be sitting there going, that's a lot of money. I can't justify spending all that money. I'm the sort of person, even if like a first class train ticket's only 50p more, I'm not sure I could justify this. But I'd love to try the experience. And also in touch, we had Louise leaving us a voicemail.
My most expensive mistake that I ever made was with a friend.
Oh.
We went to see a show at a theatre, and it was named after a famous film.
Guess the film.
Now, unfortunately, it became apparent almost from the word go that it was not going to be anything like its namesake at all. It didn't stick to the storyline, and it used things in it that weren't even in the original film. So we were very, very disappointed with it. An absolute waste of money. The lady next to us was so disgusted with it that she actually fell asleep and started snoring. Her husband tried to vainly sit through it and kept nudging her to stop snoring, but it was absolutely terrible. It was nothing like its namesake, and really it shouldn't have been advertised with the same name if it wasn't sticking to the script. So that was the most expensive mistake I ever made, and in future I won't be making that again. I shall thoroughly check and make sure if it's named after a famous film that it's going to be like it.
The only problem there, Louise, other than your experience, which I'll be honest with you, is not a great experience, and you've learned something, I've learned something, and I'm sure you, dear listener, have learned something as well. But you didn't say what the film/theatre show was. Or maybe that's part of the mystery and we have to find out the hard way. Suggestions on a postcard on that one if you think you know. It's a wee natter. We were touching on a couple of topics. One of them is just off the back of the biggest waste of money you've ever had. And we heard a lovely little voicemail from Louise. Oh, I say lovely. It's lovely to hear from her. The story was a little bit sad because it turns out she went to see a stage show based on the fact it shared a name with a film and was rather disappointed that they weren't the same thing. And Sandra Owens has also been in touch saying it's a bit like when you read a book and get the characters in your head and the film is a big disappointment. Tom Cruise will never be Jack Reacher for me. I know what you're saying, although I did learn something from, I think it was the Harry Potter movies, because I first discovered Harry Potter when I was just the right age for the books coming out. I was a kid when the books came out, and it turns out I'm not very good at reading names. And for a very long time, until I heard it in the movies, I thought Hermione's name was Hermione. Because that's how I read it in the book, and it just stuck in my head like that. I have no idea how I landed on that as a name, but there we go. It's one of those things. And also touches Paul asking, no Jenny again. Yes, unfortunately, she is unavailable this week, but should be joining us next week. The plan was to join us this week, but that kind of fell apart. So instead, she will be here this time next week when we do the next episode. So if you're wanting to enjoy some Jenny in your life, stick around. Subscribe on your podcatcher and all that sort of stuff. On a slightly different note, I was in London recently and saw the most London thing ever. A pie and mash shop. You're thinking, okay, that sounds like a good lunch, a good day out, fair enough. Even more London, it had jellied eels on offer as well. Would you go for that? I don't think I could bring myself to do it. Even as a dare, I don't think I could go, you know what, I'll stick those jellied eels in my mouth. It just feels like a bridge too far, but pie and mash, I'm totally up for. So it got me wondering, what is the most of your area thing that tourists go mad for? And I'd love to hear your suggestion on that one. I mean, I'm here in Sherwood Forest at the moment, so it's all about Robin Hood, and they've even got the Robin Hood Festival happening throughout August. And I swear, you could put up a cardboard cutout of Robin Hood anywhere in this area and flog Polaroids to tourists and make an absolute killing doing it. It's almost as bad as Platform 9 3/4. If you've ever been down to King's Cross in London, they're just all queued round the block, all to get that photo in the corner, nowhere near the platforms. But it looks like you're in the Harry Potter thing, so I get it. It's a wonderful fun day with tourists. So what is the most of your area thing that tourists or friends or whoever it is go mad for? I'd love to hear what it's like down your way. Off the back of me seeing a pie and mash shop complete with jellied eels and thinking that is the most London thing ever, I was asking you about, the most of your area thing, and I do love you getting in touch. Although it turns out jellied eels are not the most popular thing. Argonath saying, jellied eels just couldn't do it. And PG Fairlawn Cat saying, jellied eels are a step too far. But also saying in Belfast, they've got the Ulster Fry, Belfast Bap, 15s, Tato Chips, or Dulls. That all sounds like very, very nice food. That would mean if I went to Belfast, I'd put a lot of weight on. So maybe I should avoid Belfast just purely on dietary reasons. Also in touch, Sandra Owens saying Glastonbury Festival or the New Age shops in its town. Now, if you're going to talk New Age type stuff, I do have to mention New Forest. There's a little town there called Burley. And if you've not been warned, it takes you by surprise because it turns out there's like a witch's coven shop there. Wonderfully fantastic, not what you expect in the middle of a national forest or whatever you want to call it. It's just brilliant. It's utterly amazing how bizarre some of these things are. Paul also in touch saying, not a great fan of jelly deals either, although I've had oysters, so I guess I can't judge them. Sandra also in touch again saying Bridgewater has man chips, which is sort of spicy bun. Now, that name just doesn't compute in my head because when I hear man chips, I expect it's going to be coming with a strapline like, chips for a rugged diet. And it's just the most manly chips in the world. Or, something like that off the back of it. Or maybe that's why I've never had a man chip in my life and I need to go fix that. And I've just seen a message coming in from Vicky saying in North/West Norfolk, I think it's Samfire, crabbing in Cromer and visiting Burnham Market, known locally as Chelsea-on-Sea, which people go crazy for. Now, I have sampled Cromer once or twice, a couple of times, been down Cromer way, and it's one of those, I don't want to say posh, but it's one of those nice little village/town areas, very English countryside. You kind of forget it's almost by the sea. It feels a lot like somewhere you might find around Stamford or somewhere like that as well, or even a bit further north and getting into, sort of South Yorkshire territory or something like that. It's a bit of an interesting wee town, and if you do get a chance to visit, do check it out. And I've just seen a very important question come in from Paul asking, have you had rain down in England? It rained here last night and early morning, but not enough for the garden. And as WAP has jumped in and pointed out, no rain here in Birmingham. Is it global warming? Who knows? Now, the important bit there is, I know it hasn't rained in Birmingham, but are the canals still full of water, or have we reached a point where you can start to see all the trolleys and gunk and goo in the more canals than Venice that they keep going on about when you go to that part of the world? That's the important information we need to know about that. Also, Sandra's saying we had a little bit last night here, and someone said, and we need a bit more. And here in the East Midlands, we got a little bit of a sprinkling of rain. It was almost like you walked past somebody's sprinkler just went off at the wrong moment, and then it stopped. And that is it. It is still bone dry. You could still film a proper desert movie out there. I might even do that. I'll organise that to happen during the next week. Although I'll have to make sure I don't get into trouble, because it turns out I did get into trouble when I was at the supermarket and managed to trigger the thieving bandit alarm as I was doing the scan as you wander around thing. You know, when you're shopping, you go boop, 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 and you throw it in your bag. I made a genuine mistake, grabbed two of what I thought were the same thing off the shelf, scanned them twice. It turns out they were two slightly different things, cost the exact same amount of money, so nobody was going to be out of pocket, but I got collared for it, and they scanned it, and it turns out if you make a genuine mistake like that, I wasn't trying to steal things. I wasn't scanning everything through as very heavy carrots. I wasn't going down that route. Turns out if you make even a tiny little mistake like that, everyone assumes you've been nicking because your whole trolley gets rescanned. I mean, if they held online delivery to the same standard they held me to, I would never have had to be there in the first place. It's outrageous, isn't it? I'm feeling rather angry about that. So I need to calm down a bit. I need to check the comments that have been coming in. And as Paul points out, the ozone layer has repaired itself. Yeah, it happened a good number of years ago because we stopped doing CFCs, if I remember correctly. We changed our deodorant and our refrigerants, and it kind of fixed the ozone layer. So you no longer get a super duper tanning session if you go to parts of the southern half of the world. And WAP says, in the hot weather, some canals lose water and are unnavigable. Yeah, admittedly, some canals, now I'm not saying this is a thing in Birmingham, but some canals are unnavigable anyway with the amount of rubbish and junk that gets in there in the first place. So I imagine as the water level's dropping, it's not going to be much better, is it? Talking about messages, we just had Paul asking, we haven't had our trolley scanned in Tesco up here when we use the self-scan, but it was always a regular thing in Lichfield, if that's what you're talking about. I didn't quite catch it. Yeah, that is what I was talking about. It was that as you walk around the supermarket, you scan things in, you put it in the trolley, and then at the end, you sometimes get stopped for a random check. And I failed that random check. And it just get me wondering, do they have some outlets where they do more random, in quote marks, checks versus others because there's a bit more thievery? There's a question they'll probably never tell us the answer to. Also in Dutch, Sandra Owen saying, has anyone else noticed blackberries are coming in already? A local farmer said everything's about a month ahead of what it should be. Yeah, well, I don't know about blackberries. We've got brambles on some of the footpaths around here. And yeah, they're delicious to eat. Just don't go for the ones that are at sort of dog height. That would be my advice on that one. And WAP back on the canals saying that the canals and rivers just look after the canals and make sure they're all clean and look after the water levels and things like that. And has also been saying farmers will be adjusting. Now, I know that they will be, but I do wonder how much you can adjust when the crops just aren't growing the way they should be because there isn't the water. I mean, we've got a hill up the back here. I'll admit, I'm no farming expert. I'm probably the sort of person that would piss off a farmer just for existing, but we've got up a hill around the back here, and you can see all the fields where they're growing all the different crops. And you can tell the ones where they've been watered, and, you know, they've had the machine on and they've been spraying stupid amounts of water on them, because there are patches of green amongst all the brown and yellow. It turns out some supermarkets do random checks more often in areas where there's a bit more thievery, as Kim's been in touch saying, yes, Tesco and Bourne did checks on nearly everyone and said it was because of the amount of theft. I don't remember Bourne being a particularly run-down area. Admittedly, I wasn't there for very long. We're talking about the place that's, you know, just down the road from Spalding and Peterborough here, aren't we? Yeah. I hope that's the right Bourne. Otherwise, we could be having a bit of a weird conversation here about two places that happen to share the same name. And a bit of a pro tip, if you do end up living in one of those places, do remember to add the county or country or something like that onto the end of it. Otherwise, you're never getting your post ever again. Also in touch, Sandro is saying, I saw my first Father Christmas yesterday in a local scarecrow competition. No, come on, it's July. What are we doing with Father Christmas there? I mean, the only way I'd allow Father Christmas in a scarecrow competition at this time of year would be if he's like in Bermuda shorts and, you know, looking like he's on holiday or something like that. I don't think I could put up with the full Christmas thing. I mean, making it even worse, I've just seen a message coming in from Paul. Blossom Hill have a July offer on their Christmas trees, was advertised on the telly the other day. I hope that that's a fake Christmas tree if they're advertising it at this time of year. Just spreading the cost out. Because if you went and bought a live Christmas tree now and didn't manage to keep it going because, you know, they just chopped the bottom off of it, and you're going to need a few more of them by the time we get to Christmas, aren't you? And on a slightly different note, Argon has to be in touch saying, I know the footy's finished, but is anyone watching the Commonwealth Games? I only get the highlights now as I don't have TNT Sports. Yeah, the Commonwealth Games are very much restricted on the telly. I haven't watched any of them yet. I kind of forgot they were happening. And the only thing I know about the Commonwealth Games is a screenshot of the opening ceremony that's doing the rounds with a massive Tunnix tea cake in it. You know the sort of thing I'm on about? The little dome chocolate thing made of marshmallow. Beautiful. If you haven't had any, go give them a shot. But it got me thinking, that, out of all the possible options, is the Scottish food they go for. Didn't they consider the diabetes-inducing tablet or the Neeps and Tatty's Pal haggis, which is amazing on pizza, by the way? I'm talking about haggis, not the tea cake. Although, thinking about tea cakes on a pizza, I might have to give it a shot. You never know, it might work. Only one way to find out. I've just seen Vicky getting in touch here saying, plums are ripe and falling off the trees too. I've already made my first plum jam nearly a month earlier than last year. Oh, I do like a bit of fruit jam. Even with the little bits, I can put up with the bits just to get the flavour of a good fruit jam. I don't know what it is about the industrial ones and things like that. They're wonderful, but yeah, homemade ones, there's just something about them that's just a little bit better, isn't there? Also in touch, back on the opening ceremony of the Commonwealth Games, which were kind of forgotten was happening in Glasgow, by the way. We've got Sandra Owens is saying the opening ceremony was very Scottish, and I liked the version of 500 Miles they sang at the ceremony. And Argonaf chipping in saying it was so different, it was magical. It's got me wondering, what was so brilliant about that version of 500 Miles? I've not watched the opening ceremony yet. I need to go away and watch it. Although if we're going to talk about the Proclaimers and 500 Miles, how far is 500 miles from Leith? And then how far is the 500 more that they're willing to go as well? How far into Europe would the Proclaimers go? We have breaking big news from Argonaf saying, I'm in Mansfield, Nottinghamshire, and it's raining. Woo! Yeah, that's exactly what we're after. And you've just prompted me to look out the window now. I'll be honest, I'm within 10 miles of Mansfield. Don't judge, it just happens to be where I am. And I can confirm it is indeed properly raining. And you've just reminded me that I've left some stuff out in the garden. I probably ought to check it doesn't get soaked. Sunny in Scotland. You know how to make me feel jealous, don't you? I don't get the whole thing with salted caramel. Why is that a big thing nowadays? And talking about blowing minds, I like to blow your mind. And I'm going to do it with a fun wee fact I came across recently, right? Apparently, bananas, you know, the yellow bendy fruit things, you might have them in banoffee pie, or let them rot a bit and, you know, make banana cake, banana loaf out of it. Well, it turns out bananas are officially berries, but strawberries are not. I mean, it's literally in the name. It says strawberry, but they're not. How does that work? We can add a little bit more detail to our whole thing that it turns out strawberries are not a berry. Science calls it an aggregate accessory fruit because it grows from a flower with many ovaries and the seeds are on the outside, according to Google. And apparently it's fascinating reading when you get into this. It all feels like very complicated technicalities. And I think we have to end on that note of complicated technicalities.